Welcome back. In this video we are going to make some bookends. We've got some generic parts that are going to be the same for everybody, but then you get to have your own design as part of this bookend. So you can see on mine, I went ahead and I have just a tribal symbol that I looked up that someone used as a tattoo, and I used that to trace and make for my design. So I'm going to show you how to make the generic base shape and then what we're going to do about your design on your own bookends. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an L shape. So I'm going to create a 2D sketch. And from here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go 4 inches over, 4 and then enter. If I hit enter again, it stops my command and I can start it up again. So I can just not have the continuing onto the next line, but go ahead and create a new one here that is 6.5 tall. If I click on the right button, it's going to zoom everything out. I can type in 0.5, enter. If I hit enter again, I can go ahead and start another point. So again, up 0.5, enter. If I go in, you're going to see that there's a certain point where it's going to snap into place with that vertical line. And now I can go ahead and finish that shape up. Once I click finish, I'm going to use the extrude command, and I'm going to extrude it 4 inches across. Let's zoom out, see what it looked like. Alright, now on mine you can see I had rounded edges. To do that, we can use the fillet tool. Window showed up, but it's minimized, so I got to click on this arrow to see the rest of my window. Now it says edges, none are selected, radius is 0.125. Now if I have a diameter of 4, we actually need a radius of 2. So I've got to change that number to 2. And then I can click on the edges that I want rounded. So I'm going to click on these short little edges, and you're going to see that it rounds that for me. If I click and hold the scroll ball, I can move my screen around, and then I can click on the other ones as well. Alright, so this is our standard shape that everyone has to use. After that, we're going to go ahead and start making our design in this shape. So to be able to do that, we're going to need a plane that's going to cut straight through the center of this. To be able to do that, I click on the down arrow on planes, and I'm going to pick mid-plane between 2 planes. Once I select that, I can go ahead and select one side of my object, and if I go to the other side and I select that, it's going to make a plane that cuts straight through the center. So this is the plane that I'm going to use, and that's the plane that I did use on my other bookend. So you're going to see that straight down the middle, half of it is on one side, half is on the other. We're going to have the detail on one side, and then we will have a side that doesn't have so much detail on the other. That way when we mirror this and make the other bookend, we'll know that it was actually mirrored and not just the same one put in there twice. So that's why it has to have one side more unique than the other. So now that I go back here, I'll be able to work on this work plane with a sketch and put a drawing on there. To be able to do so, I've got to first look up a drawing, and I can do that in my internet program. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to just do a search. I had tattoo, let's see, tribal. Then I went to images, and I was just able to choose one of my images. Now any image that we choose, you're going to have to go ahead, take a look, and find one that is a JPEG. So if I wanted, let's say this one, and I want to use that one as my example, I save image as. If it's not a JPEG, I've got to continue on and find one that's better for me. So GIFs don't always work the best, and PNGs don't work at all. So we got to keep looking until we find one that works for us. Yeah. Alright, well this is the one I used, so I can go save as, and I know that one's a JPEG. Just going to save it to my desktop. And then I can go and choose that one in my sketch. So now that I have my plane there, I'm going to go create sketch. Let's go back to the assignment. All right. And now we can look across again. We want to put something on here. We got to find, hey, insert. I want to insert. Top one is insert image. And I can go ahead, go to the desktop, and I can find that image. There we go, open. And then we can click, put it in there anywhere we want. If we hit escape, we get out of that command, so we're only going to put the one in. And then we can find a corner and we can position it just the way we want. So we can move it around, we can turn it, we can change the size, and then we can start following the design. So once we have that on there, you can just start drawing on your image. I'm not going to draw a lot of it. I'm just going to draw some generic shapes on here. We've got the lines, we've got the splines, all the things that we've used before. Made one spline, finished it. Go ahead, I'm making another one. And this one curve back out. Alright, so generically I have a shape here. I'm not going to draw the whole thing out just to save on time, but I'm going to go finish sketch, and I'm going to go extrude. Look at that, it only picked that hole. I must have something that's overlapping. So I can go back, double click on my sketch, and I can zoom in here, and look at that, there's my overlap. If I use the trim command while I'm in sketch, use the trim command, and all I did was I clicked and held on this to have it come out of the top menu bar, and I can just click, hold, drag it back, and I put it back in place. Now the reason I pulled it out is because I don't have this full screen. I can't see everything up there, so I just pulled it out so I could get to the trim command. Now I can go ahead, extrude, and there's no standard size that you're going to extrude this. This is for your own personal design. So I'm just going to go about 0.25, finish that, and then I'm just going to create another sketch on the back of this, and this one's just going to be a really bland shape. So this shape is just going to zoom around my object. I'm just making it larger than my area so I know it connects. If I need to see what's back there, I can actually click F7 and see that my bottom line didn't connect. So hopefully it connected that time. Then I'm going to extrude this shape. I'm going to go the other direction, make sure I'm making something. Did I go the wrong? There we go. Alright, so one side has your object, the other side's generic. I no longer need my work plane anymore. I can turn visibility off. And this is where I would go ahead and I would save this side. So I would just go ahead, save as, save it wherever I want to save it. And I would just call this probably bookend 1. So bookend 1, I click save. And then I have the first one already set to go. But now what I want to do is I also want to have another one that looks just like it, but mirrored. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to do another save as, and I'm just going to call it bookend 2. That way I have a second file, I don't save over the first one, and I can start manipulating it for my second side. So I'm going to go along here, try to figure out what I want, and I want a pattern. So pattern, the very first one on the bottom there, is mirror. What I'm going to do to make this work is on features, I'm going to start clicking down the side here of all of them as I went along and I made the parts. So I first click extrusion, then the fillet, and keep going along. If I went in reverse, sometimes it errors out. So if I click the first one, second one, third, fourth of all the parts I made, then I click mirror plane, I want the back side. Then I'm going to click OK. You're going to see now that I have two of them right there with each other. So my detail's on one side, and on the back side there's pretty much nothing, it's blank. So from here what I need to do is I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm just going to extrude cut the first half away. So I'm just going to make a rectangle that's bigger than my shape. Doesn't really matter how big, just as long as it covers every single part and every detail. And then I'm going to go extrude. I'm just going to click on this arrow, pull it back until I'm through my object, then click OK, and I cut the first side off. So now I can just go ahead and save this, and I have both sides. Thanks. Have fun.